Iron Chancellor, the Realpolitik. Today we are talking about a man by the name of Otto. Guten Tag. For today, we are discussing the man himself. We are talking about Otto von Bismarck, Prince of Bismarck, Count of Bismarck, Schönhausen, Duke of Lauenburg. If I butcher the German words, I'm sorry, it's not my language, which my ancestors cry about. So, born Otto Edward Leopold von Bismarck, he was a German statesman and diplomat, and one of the most important ones in history. From his origins in the upper class of the Junker landowners, Bismarck rose rapidly in Prussian politics, and from 1862 to 1890, he was the minister-president and foreign minister of Prussia. Before his rise to the executive, he was the Prussian ambassador to Russia and France, and he served in both houses of the Prussian parliament. He masterminded the unification of Germany in 1871, and he served as the first chancellor of the German Empire until 1890. And not only is this, but he was a genius, okay? I love the man. I'm gonna say, I'm biased. I really am. On the left, you can see the map of the German states before unification. On the right, you can see the border of what would become the German Empire as the unification of Germany happened. So on the left, you can see the German Confederation as it was in gray. Blue is the state of Prussia, and yellow is Austria. On the right, you can see Prussia in 1862, the North German Confederation, the states that united in 1871, and then what was annexed in 1871. So the blue colors and the gray colors on the left ultimately combined as one to create the German Empire. And in his capacity, he dominated European affairs. He had served as the Chancellor of the North German Confederation from 1867 to 1871. Alongside his responsibilities in the Kingdom of Prussia, because at the time they were separate. He cooperated with King Wilhelm I of Prussia to unify the various German states, and this became a partnership that would last for the rest of Wilhelm's life. The king granted Bismarck the titles of Count of Bismarck, Schönhausen in 1865, as well as Prince of Bismarck in 1871. Bismarck provoked 3 short, decisive wars against the states of Denmark, Austria, and France. Following the victory against Austria, he abolished the supranational German Confederation, the gray on the left there, and they recreated a new state, a new supranational state, forming the North German Confederation as the first German national state. And it aligned the smaller North German states behind Prussia with a singular goal, and it excluded Austria. Receiving the support of the independent South German states in the Confederation's defeat of France in 1871, he formed the German Empire, which also excluded Austria, and it united Germany. So, it was kind of a puzzle piece that fell into place bit by bit. First, he makes the North German Confederation. Then he gets the smaller northern states to follow Prussia's lead. And then following the defeat of France, they crown Wilhelm I as the Emperor of the Germans. And it gets the southern states behind him as well, creating the first German Empire, the second German Reich. So, with Prussian dominance accomplished by 1871, Bismarck skillfully used balance of power, diplomacy, and other tactics to maintain Germany's position in a peaceful Europe. To the historian Erich Hobsbawm, Bismarck, quote, remained undisputed world champion at the game of multilateral diplomatic chess for almost 20 years after 1871. And devoted himself exclusively and successfully to maintaining peace between the great powers, end quote. However, the annexation of Alsace-Lorraine gave new fuel to France's revisionism and Germanophobia. Bismarck's diplomacy as a Realpolitik, as he called it, and a powerful rule at home gained him the nickname of the Iron Chancellor. German unification and rapid economic growth were foundationally important to his foreign policy. Juggling a very complex, interlocking series of conferences, negotiations, alliances, he used his diplomatic skills to maintain Germany's position. Realpolitik, or realpolitik, depending on how you pronounce it, it's essentially the idea that you may have a conservative idea, a liberal idea, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you do what's best for your state and your people. So as a nationalist, you'd be like, okay, this is more of a liberal decision, but I'm going to take it even though I'm a conservative politician. And I'm going to take this liberal instead of conservative because I think it's better for what my people need at this time. And then later on, you can go on and, make a conservative decision instead of a liberal decision, depending on what was best for your people at that moment. So it was kind of addressing the situation and doing what was needed at the time to get the job done, which I think is how it should, it's how it should work. And he's an inspiring man, in my opinion, and he did a lot of good for Europe and Germany. Bismarck disliked colonialism because he thought it would consume too much German resources rather than reaping the benefit of it, and he very reluctantly, built an overseas empire for the Kaiser, when it was demanded by both elite and mass opinion. Bismarck also initially opposed the German annexation of Alsace-Lorraine from France. He thought, which turned out to be correct, that it would kind of endanger the long-term enmity between the French and the Germans. And like I said, he was right, because that's the first thing they wanted back after World War I. So, as a master of complex politics at home, Otto von Bismarck created the first welfare state in the modern world, with the goal of gaining working class support that might otherwise go to his socialist opponents. In the 1870s, he allied himself with the low-tariff anti-Catholic liberals and fought the Catholic Church in what was called the Kulturkampf, the culture struggle, or the culture war. He lost this struggle as the Catholics responded by forming the powerful German Center Party and using universal male suffrage to gain a block of seats against Bismarck. Bismarck then reversed himself and ended the Kulturkampf, broke with the liberals, and imposed conservative protective tariffs. So see, that's what I was talking about. As a realpolitik, he can go back and forth. He can go and do what he thinks is needed for his people. And furthermore, he used this center party to fight the socialists that he had originally allied himself with. And as a devout Lutheran, he was loyal to his ruler, the German emperor, or the Kaiser Wilhelm I, who argued with Bismarck, but in the end supported him against the advice of the empress and the crown prince. So he really was in the ear of Wilhelm I, quite to an extent and success. So while the Imperial Reichstag was elected by universal male suffrage, it did not have much literal control of government policy. And this is the Reichstag building pictured here that was made in the 1890s. So Bismarck distrusted democracy and ruled through a strong, well-trained bureaucracy with power in the hands of traditional Junker elite that consisted of the landed nobility in Eastern Prussia. In his role as the Chancellor, he largely controlled domestic and foreign affairs. In 1888, which came to be known as the Year of Three Emperors, as the German throne was passed from Wilhelm I to his son Frederick III, and then on to Frederick's son Wilhelm II, who would be the Kaiser during World War I, disastrously. The headstrong Kaiser Wilhelm II dismissed Bismarck from office, and Bismarck retired to write his memoirs. And many modern historians consider this a mistake because of the actions and decisions the German Empire would go on to take that usually it would not have taken if Bismarck was still there giving his advice. So Bismarck was a strong-willed, outspoken, and overbearing politician. So what's to like about him? Well, he was quite polite, he was charming, and he was witty, much in the way that Winston Churchill also would be. Occasionally, he displayed a violent temper, which he sometimes feigned to get the results he wanted, and he kept his power by melodramatically threatening resignation over and over time again, which would bend Wilhelm to his will. Wilhelm I, that is. He possessed not only a long-term national and international vision, but also the short-term ability to juggle complex developments within his own nation. Bismarck became a hero to German nationalists who built many monuments honoring him. Many historians praise him as a visionary who was instrumental in uniting Germany, and once that he had accomplished that, kept the peace in Europe through adroit diplomacy. And that's why I like him. And that's why I decided to talk about him today. Because it's because of him that we saw these little German states ally together behind the force of the militaristic Prussians and become a world power. Not only did this happen and unify into the German nation and German empire, but we also saw him keep the peace. Something that would, be very difficult to do due to the landscape of the political scape that was Europe during the end of the 1800s. Because that was a powder keg, as we would learn with the ignition of World War I. But Chancellor von Bismarck did an excellent job bobbing and weaving with the punches and able to just keep his people upright in this storm that is politics. And historian Robert K. Massey has noted Bismarck's popular image was a, quote, gruff and militaristic one, while in reality, Bismarck's tool was aggressive, ruthless diplomacy, end quote. And so, while he did have a gruff look to him, like Massey says, in reality, his biggest tool was his aggressive, ruthless diplomacy. He was a no-nonsense hitter when it came to diplomacy. And that's why he was so absolutely necessary for the German people. Well, that's kind of it for me today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Otto von Bismarck, why I like him, and why he's important. That was more of an overview. If you want to hear more about him, let me know, and perhaps I'll make another video diving into the actual events that he took place in, took part in, the decisions, etc. I could also start this series off by saying, if you like this kind of video compared to my regular video, we can start doing this and honing in on important historical people and figures throughout history, and I can kind of dissect them or give you overviews like I just did for Otto von Bismarck. And if you are liking this content, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for me, as it's the only way to help me growing and keeping my content out there. If you ever have a comment, suggestion, concern, anything at all, even if I get something wrong or you want to pitch something else in, just let me know in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you, because I do read all of your comments. If you ever want to support me further, check out the links in the description of the video. But that's it for now, as I am Shilbro6 for the History Armada, and I hope you enjoyed your weekly dose of history. Cheers.